Good morning, good morning, good morning. Uh, y'all, I have been going back and forth with this word that God gave me early this morning. Early. I should have been done had this word out. And I have been going back and forth because it gets too long. And I guess I'm thinking in my mind, oh Lord, that's too long, and I've been erasing, which is supposed to already been out there. These are not my words. So what I have to realize is that even if it's 30 minutes, that's what God tells me to say. Now I done erased his words like 3 or 4 times because I kept saying, oh, it's too long. I erased it. Started, oh, it's too long. I erased it. And it's like when God gives you a word, it is not to be, I've said this before, tainted. It's been tainted now because I've said it 30 minutes one time, 25 minutes the next time, 30 minutes one, and I'm not, it's been tainted. It's like it got maggots in it now. Because, like, remember with the manna that came down and they wasn't supposed to keep the manna and in the tents of children of Israel, and they kept it, and it had maggots and it was infested then because they were supposed to eat it that day. When God gives us a word, we're supposed to eat it right then. It don't no matter if we don't think we looking at, oh man, that's too long. Ain't nobody want to listen to a 30-minute video. You know, that was my thing. Oh man, that's too long. It's 25 minutes. You know, I'm still trying to cut it down. Basically, I'm not cutting the video down. I'm cutting his spirit down because everything that I'm saying in those videos is what he's given me to say. And I'm cutting him off because I'm thinking, oh man, this is too long. We are never supposed to cut off God. We are quenching the spirit, and I cannot stand that. That is the biggest pet peeve ever when I see people doing it in church. Oh, that drives me insane. When you cut off worship, you cut off a person singing, you are not cutting that person off. You are cutting off God. You are cutting off God's spirit. So I have to apologize to God. So Lord, I'm sorry for that because I've cut you off. I'm thinking, that's too long, Lord. And now that I've said it so many times, it's like I'm familiar with it now. Now I'm familiar with the passage. And now I know what to say. And I don't want to know what to say. I still want you to work with me because I still believe that it's a good word. And I still believe people need to hear it. So Lord, hear my prayer. Please incline your ear to me. I apologize because I allowed what I'm thinking people don't want to hear. I didn't allow that there's going to be somebody listening that needed every minute of that 30-minute video to understand what you're saying. Somebody may be listening because if they wasn't supposed to, you would not have given me this word. I thank you for giving me the word. I thank you for using me to give the word. You didn't have to, but you did. You kept pursuing me until I said yes. You couldn't make me say yes. I had to say yes on my own. And now I can never say no. I never want to say no to you. So Lord, I just ask that you use me. I ask that what needs to be said, please don't let me second think it. Just say it. Don't let me worry about what it sounds like. Just say it. I just thank you for who you are and what you're doing. In Jesus' name, amen. Now we are in Mark. Matthew, Mark. It's in the New Testament. First there's Matthew, then there's Mark, chapter 9. And we're going to start at verse 33. So Mark, chapter 9, verse 33. And I hope you got your word. And he came to Capernaum. And being in the house, he asked them, what was it that ye disputed among yourselves by the way? But they held their peace. For by the way they had disputed among themselves, who should be the greatest? And he sat down and called the 12 and said unto them, if any man desire to be first, the same shall be least of all, and servant of all. And he took a child and set him in the midst of them. And when he had taken him in his arms, he said unto them, Whosoever shall receive one of such children in my name receiveth me. And whosoever receive me receiveth not me, but him that sent me. What God just showed me, when you open yourself up to him, is something that he didn't show me those 3 or 4 times I've tried to do this word. Or those 3 or 4 times I've looked at the timeline and said, this is too long. In verse 37, he says, Whosoever shall receive one of such children. Remember, Jesus set himself down in the midst of his disciples. If you go back to the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000, if you go back to the story of Jesus feeding the 4,000, what does he instruct the people to do? He instructs them to sit down. He, this time, sit down. And not only did he sit down, he brought a child with him to sit with him. Then he says in verse 37, Whosoever shall receive one of such children in my name. He's showing them, I am a child. While y'all trying to be grown and be the greatest, I am God's child. That's all I want to be. I'm not in my mind telling y'all, I'm not standing with y'all on this. I'm not telling you I'm the greatest. I'm sitting as a servant. I've been sent here to serve, Jesus said. He said, he's showing them, I'm sitting among you. Not only is Jesus teaching them this time, he's showing them while he's teaching. Any other time he's taught and shown them and allowed the disciples to feed it to the people. This time he's teaching them, showing them, feeding them, and giving it to the disciples. And allowing them to look down at him instead of looking up to him. They're looking down, because if he sits down, you got to look down at somebody. And he bought this kid, and he says in 37, Whosoever shall receive one of such of these children. He's telling himself, I'm a child. You don't hear me going around saying I'm the greatest because God is my father. You hear me going around saying God is the greatest because it's through him that I'm anything at all. I sit down in God's presence. I am a child under him. It used to bother me when God first said, I am going to send you as my servant, send you as my disciple. I'm calling you to preach. I'm calling you to teach. It was like I was a child, and I had to go back to childhood. And I thought about children and how they say their speech, and they get up there and they fidget maybe with their fingers, or they fidget with their clothes, and they say their speech. They grab the little microphone and say, on this Easter day, I came to say Jesus rose. And everybody gets all excited. Yay! They're clapping. They excited. Jesus, God, has put a speech in me. What Jesus was giving his disciples is his speech. The speech didn't come from himself. It came from God. How do you learn a speech? When you was giving your Easter speech, what would happen? They would cut you off a little piece of paper, and you would take it home, and you would give it to your mom or dad or grandma, whoever was in the house, and they would go over that speech with you over and over and over. That was a practice. That was getting you prepared. That's what we do with the Word. We are his children. He puts us in the Word. He gives us pieces of the Word every day, and we are to go over that Word and get an understanding. We're supposed to put that on the inside of us. And then when we go back to church, we have practices on Thursdays and Saturdays and whatever day, 2 days, and then it went to, maybe start at 1 day a week and then maybe go up to 2 and then 3 days when it was time to do the rehearsal. When the rehearsals, they pick out those days. There's days that God picks out that He allows us to go and say our speech. Every day that I get on YouTube, He allows me to go say my speech. What He's put in me that morning. What He's shown me that day. He allows me to, He puts that word in it, which is my speech. Then He allows me to do it right now. Right now I'm doing my speech in front of you on a practice run. When He tells me to go pray for people, that's practicing what He wants me to do. When He gives me words to put into people, when He says, I need you to go tell this person this. I need you to go tell this person that. He's doing practice runs for prophecy because He knows that's what I want to do. Those are practice runs. When I have a desire to speak in tongues, the different things of His Spirit, all the 9 gifts of the Spirit, I want those. And He knows that I desire to have them because He's put those desires in me, not in myself. And He allows me to go out and He allows me to go practice these things. He allows me to go on practice runs, which I don't even know. I didn't even realize that's what I was doing until He shared it with me. Until the day that He says, now it's time to go do your speech. And in the practice, you have, on speech day, you have those kids that I was talking about that do their fingers and play with their clothes. And then you have those kids that go up there, good morning, everybody. And Jesus, they excited about it. Oh, they going up there with fire. They going up there because they can't wait to show you their dress. They can't wait to, I'm that kid. I'm that kid that says, look at the clothes that God put on me. Look at the speech that He's put in me. He's put in me a speech, a calling that says, I want you to go preach my word. I want you to go teach my word. He's put that on the inside of me. And He wants me to go do that in Him. I can't be grown. I can't be, as a child, I wanted to be grown. I wanted to do grown-up things. I wanted them to trust me to do, but they would always call me back in. Keisha's time to come. Now, God does the same thing. When He needs to have me come into the Word. When you sleep and He wakes you up and you thinking you going for a snack, He's calling you in. I need you to come in because it's time for dinner. I need you to come in because it's time for lunch. I need you to come in. But many of us don't come in. Many of us say that we're Christians and say that we grown-ups now. We know the word. My grandma used to say, you ain't grown. Now you grown-ups because you know the word. And if somebody tries to come to you with that same word that you know, and they break it off to you in a different way, and you know that word, it's like a child. Go sit down, kid. What do you tell the kids? What did Jesus do? He went and sat down. What do adults tell children to do? Oh, go sit down. Most times people look at me as a child. They're not looking at me as an adult. Oh, girl, you young. You still got milk behind you. Your ears are still wet. You still wet behind the ears. That's what they say. And that used to bother me. But God showed me, don't let that bother you. You are still wet behind the ears. And I was like, huh? You wet behind the ears because I saturate your ears in my word. I keep them wet with my voice. Wow. When they say, you still young, you still have milk on your breath, you still have milk on your tongue, you are exactly correct. I have a feeding. I just got out of a feeding with God. This morning when I woke up in praise and worship, I just got out of a feeding. When I go into His word in the morning and then get some for lunch and get some for dinner, and if I come to you and tell you something, oh, girl, you a little girl. You ain't grown. How you gonna tell me? Because I'm a child. And Jesus was nothing but a child. I can't do nothing. I only can do what my parents tell me to do. What do kids do? What they parents tell them to do? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. The ones that listen, the ones that have trained, molded to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes or no. They ain't asking why. They ain't asking this, and you've done molded them. I dare not ask Loretta why. I dare not ask Cormay why as a child. I dared not. I would not. I didn't have the courage enough. So why? God is my father, and he's leading my life now. Dare I ask him why? Dare I ask him for what? Or I better say, yes, sir, every time he says, go do this, go teach, go preach. I better say, yes, sir. When he says, come into my word, I better say, yes, sir. You ain't grown. My grandma used to say she sees herself now in the mirror. She thinks she's grown. Many times as Christians, we see ourselves. We see ourselves because now there may be a doctor in front of our name. Doctor this, and bishop this, and apostle this, and pastor this. We see ourselves with these titles and we start smelling ourselves. And you're probably thinking, smelling yourself. My grandma used to say it. Keisha's noticed that she got a little body now, and a couple little boys are chasing after her. So she's smelling herself. She thinks she's grown. The disciples, on their way in the scriptures, and they was debating. When you first look at that, you would think they was debating amongst each other. Why would they do that if Jesus was there? They were all debating it in their mind. Oh, I have to be his greatest. Just looking up, thinking, oh, I have to be his greatest because he let me stand in line right here. Or I have to be his greatest because he told me to go do that. And I have to be his greatest because he came to recruit me first. Or I have to be his greatest because I've been in the game longer than you've been in the game. Well, there's a certain parable in the Bible that Jesus talks about. And it's a parable about a man going to recruit people for work. It's a parable about getting into the kingdom. And he goes early in the morning to recruit people. And he gets his first recruit. And then all through the day, he's going out. It's kind of like here in Texas. You see people standing on the side of the road. They're waiting for work. Well, see, Jesus and God are waiting for us. They're waiting for us to say yes. They're waiting for us to get in their trucks to take us to a work site. They're waiting for us to be teachable. They're waiting for that. So these people get in there waiting for work. And in the parable, he goes all day, bringing people back to the work site all day, all the way until the last hour. And see, the people that came on that first trip early in the morning, they think, we grown. We grown because we've been in the game longer than you. We have this behind our name and in front of our name. We've been here. We've experienced this. We've experienced that. You haven't done that yet. You new in the game. Well, you know what Jesus tells me in that parable? Whether he picked you up at 5 o'clock in the morning, or whether he picked you up when you was 18 and you now 60, and he picked me up when I was 30, and I'm still going into the game with him, or he picked me up when I'm 60, and he picked you up when you was 18, and you've been going longer, and you think I'm grown. God is saying in that parable, you're not grown. Everybody is the same. If you working for me, if I've given you assignment, I've given all of you assignments. I've taken you all into my work site. Y'all all gonna get the same amount of pay. See, those people in the parable didn't want them ones after to get the same amount of pay. The people here in the world, the pastors, preachers, teachers, or whoever's doing it, don't want the same amount of pay for somebody like me. Somebody that hasn't gone to school. Somebody that is not working as a housewife. What can you tell us? We've gone to school. We know what the words are. We know what the semicolon means. We know if this is capitalized, this is this. We know if this is, well, God is saying in that parable, just like I came and got you and you went this way, I came and got her and sent her this way. My journey with God is not the same. And when I say what I'm about to say, this does not go for everybody. You have to consult with God. The scripture, one of my favorite scriptures was the one in Psalms 37 and it's 4 and 5 about God giving you the desires of your heart. But I'd always miss that verse 5 that said, commit your ways to him and he will do this. See, I got committed to him first. And I turned as a little kid. And as this little kid, when I said I got to a little kid, because he had to show me who he was. He had to show me. It wasn't good enough for me to call him teacher and father and all these things, Rose of Sharon. I heard all these names and I'm like, what do all these names even mean in the first place? I want to call you what you are to me. Show me what you are. So he put the desire on me not to go to school. Because when I first started, I wanted to go to school. I wanted a recognition. I wanted to make a name for myself. I wanted to go to school. He said, no, I don't want you to do that. I'm going to teach you myself because you said I have to show you who I am. So he's showing me I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be your teacher. I'm going to teach you the word. And when I teach it to you, you're supposed to put it out. You're not going to work. You're going to be a housewife because I'm going to supply your needs and I'm going to have you to where I have you all to myself and I can minister and talk to you. I have to set this up. See, he had to set this up like in the beginning when he created things. When he said, and then there was light and he separated the light from the darkness. See, he made light for a purpose. He made us for a purpose. He didn't just make me and say, okay, here she is and then that's it. He made me for a purpose, and he's gotten me prepared my whole life for this time right here. He uses things in my life to get me prepared for this time. I'm not saying that you should go out and say, I'm going to quit school because I want him to be my teacher. And you go to God in prayer about that. This is my journey. This is my testimony. Don't go out and quit your job and say, you know what? Well, God, I'm going to trust you. Thou shalt not test the Lord thy God. Don't do that unless he tells you to do it. This is what he's telling me to do. This is the journey that I have to take in him. I have to trust him because if I look and say, well, this ain't the journey that I'm supposed to be on because they doing it this way and you get more successful in doing it this way and I have to have something behind my name, Lord. I have to have something in front of my name, Lord, because, I'm just like a kid to them. I'm just like this kid that's got this natural hair and this wild fingernail polish and a wild praise and she's just strange and something about her. They're not going to let me do anything. But to the contrary. There's a spirit. Remember that God is a spirit. And those who worship him must what? Worship him in spirit and in truth. So as a child, as my child does, if he is in danger, he runs to me or runs to his father. He hides in his chest, in my chest, or hides maybe behind his daddy's legs and puts his head down. That's the same thing as what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm in danger. They won't let me. I can't and I want to, or they won't hear me. I'm supposed to go to my daddy God and hide because you told me to do this. You told me to say this, and they're not taking it, and they're not receiving it, and they telling me to go sit down because I'm a kid. So now I feel bad. I'm in danger. Now I need to go to my daddy, and daddy's going to handle it for me. Daddy's going to come to the rescue. And those doors that you locked on me, remember he's a spirit, and I'm in his arms. So we're going to glide right through that door. That wall that you set up and said I couldn't get past, or the wall that you put up here and said you can't go no further, he's a spirit. He's going to float right through the walls with me in his arms. God is going to use me. He's going to use me for his service. He's going to use you for the service as well. We are to remain kids. My head needs to be always bobbling around because I expect for God to hold me in place. When I know how to hold my own head up and hold myself in place, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. Because I have to count on God. When I know that I can do it in myself, and I know I can preach in myself, and I can teach in myself, I got a little fan base now. My head is still like this, y'all. Still all around. Because I got to rely on God to hold my head up and teach me like I teach my son. You remember the ABCs when you used to look your kid in the face? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Well, God teaches me just like we teach our kids. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and just keep going. And he teaches me all that in those scriptures. He's teaching me himself. Lord, what will they say about me when you do set me out there? What can they say? That she's a housewife and she says that she allows God to teach her. That's all I want them to say. God is saying that's all I want them to say. There's nothing going to be behind your name because you're going to be a representative of me. You're not going to do anything. I'm going to do it through you. Let me do it. You don't need to make a name for yourself. Remember the Tower of Babel? They made a name for themselves. They wanted to go down in history when their instructions were to just go and multiply the land. And I got y'all, God said. But they had to make a name for themselves. They had to do this tower so generations and generations could remember them. And God casted them in tongues, different tongues, so they couldn't even understand what they was doing. They couldn't complete it because they can't do anything. God will not allow you to do anything on your own accord. It will not work. It will fail every time. You may think it's working because, oh, you got it going and you don't see it in the forecast, but he will shut it down. Because you have to do it in his strength. You have to do it with him. If he's not leading you and if you're not sitting back and allowing him to ask for his blessings each and every time you do something, I have to ask for my blessing. When I tell Nicholas, did you say your prayer over that food? Oh, God is good. God is great. When I go into this food, did you say your prayer or did you just go in and start reading it? Did you just say, oh man, I got to hurry up real quick. Let me just read a chapter. Did you wake up this morning? Nicholas comes in my room in the mornings or wherever I am to try to find me. Mama, can I have some breakfast? Excuse me. Sorry. Good morning. Now, can I have some breakfast? God is the same way. Don't get up and start laying out this laundry list of, Lord, I need you to watch me over today. I got an interview today. I need you to do this. Watch these people because they're getting on my nerves. Do this, blah, 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 blah. He's the parent. We the child. You let him give us what we need to do. When y'all go to church, I've taught you, you sit in the front. You better not have yourself in the back. You get in the front where my mama and my grandma used to tell me, you don't sit in the back of that church. You bring your tail up to the front. God tells me the same thing right now. When I go to church, he expects me to sit in the front. He expects me to listen. When Jesus teaches me, he don't want me looking at him. He wants me looking at the God in him. When I get up on Sundays and I get in church and I go in the front and I'm looking so intensely at my pastor, he doesn't want me looking at him. I'm looking beyond him and seeing the God in him. I'm writing down what God wants me, what God is saying through him. I'm writing down what God is saying that his mouth may not be saying. I'm looking at the God in him because he's taking me to class. These are my classes. This is school. I have to let you go out sometimes and get some schooling and bring it back. I am his child. You can't play outside, Keisha, all day. You can't, playing outside means you can't go without my word. You can't go without being in worship all day. You got to come in. I'm calling you in at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Sometimes in the middle of the night, when you used to get up early for school in the mornings, and you'd be like, oh man, you trying to get 5 more minutes and you want that cover to be put over your head. That's how it is with God. Sometimes at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, get up, time to go to school. Come on, get up. And I'm like, oh, man. And sometimes when I say, oh, man, and throw the cover over my head, I miss the blessing. I miss what he had for me at that time because I didn't get up right then. One thing I love about my husband, when that alarm goes off, boom, he gets up. That's how he was taught. And when I first got married to him, man, you don't lay for a minute? Nope, because my mama and daddy, whoever it was, said, don't lay. You get up. When that alarm goes off, you get up. And he still does it. So when God puts that alarm on you, get up. It's time to get up. It's time to get up. That don't mean wait. My kids got this. I got to do this. I got to do this. No, when he says go, when he says pray, when he says sing, when he says stop, we supposed to do it. So I encourage you today. No, we are kids. I am a child. You look at me as a child, I may look like a child to you. I am. Even when I get 40, 50, 60 years old, I'm still a child. I'm still going to be this child. I'm like, Timothy, my pastor charged one of the assistant pastors when he got his church, Timothy, don't act brand new. Still do what you've been doing. He's saying the same thing to me, Keisha. When I put you out there, you still teach just like you're doing right now. You still preach just like I instructed you to. I've taught you how to preach. I've taught you how to teach. You do it the way I told you to do. Don't get out there and act brand new. Don't get out there and try to do what you see somebody else doing. Don't get out there and take on what's in the land like they told the children of Israel. Don't get to that promised land and start taking on what they doing. I put you there for a reason, for a purpose. You are my child. It's like when your mom used to say, don't let me hear that you cut up when I drop you off and come back and pick you up. That's the same thing God said. Don't let me hear that you cut up. We are not grown. That's it. That's all I got for y'all today. We not grown. He's saying stop, so I gotta stop. We not grown. I'm not grown. You're not grown. We have to know we are not grown. Much blessings and much love to each and every one of you. Thank you for tuning in and watching.